Welcome to our virtual Sunday Youthy from St Peter's Church. As you can see, I'm not actually in the church building, I'm actually outside, which is, I think, a first for Youthy. And so welcome back if you were here with us last week, if you've watched the video in between, but if it's your first time, it's great to have you with us. And I think it's also the first time, as well as doing Youthy from my back garden, that we've actually done it on Easter Sunday. So there's two firsts this week, at least. We're going to be doing some similar things to last week, and a few different things. And of course, we're going to be looking at a passage in the Bible. You can probably guess what that will be. But first, we have our first challenge. We did this last week as well. What is missing? What is missing? So I'm going to lay out a few things on the garden, and again, one of them will be missing. So see if you can spot what it is, and if you make a note of it and you get one each week for while this is going on, and keep the full list and get them all right, you may well get a prize at the end. Back in a moment. Okay, take a really good look, because in a minute we'll take one away. Okay, back again. So, what was missing? Did you spot? Don't forget, make a note on your list and keep that safe. Now, as I said, something being missing links to our Bible story for this week. I'm sure you can also work that out. Now, last week, do you remember, right at the end, there was a separate video, which was Truth or Lie, Custard Pie. Truth or Lie, Custard Pie. It's great, but you had to say whether you liked or disliked for whether it was true or false on the video, and everyone who voted liked it. So that's great, they all liked it, which means they thought it was true. Okay, now the fact that I gave was I have been up the highest mountain in England and in Wales and in Scotland, the three different mountains. So is that true, or is that a lie? Well, I can now tell you it is true. So, you got it right. And I should say, well done. And that of course means custard pie. Well, got cleaned up a bit after that. Let's move on, shall we? Don't remember, there will be another of those this week, so watch out for the video at the end, and I'll give you a little reminder a bit later on. Another thing we did last week was, who is hiding where? Who is hiding where? And last week we saw Slav, didn't we, hiding. Actually, he was in his dining room under the dining table. I think that's where he was. I haven't actually checked. And this week we have another one. Who is hiding where? So just work that out, and I know you can't say in the comments below, but just have a go. See if you can work it out. There we go.
So where am I today? Am I in my house? Am I in Lucy and Slav's house? I know, but do you?
Who is hiding where? Did you get that? I think maybe we're making it a little bit too easy, so I think next week perhaps we'll use a disguise or something to make it that much harder. Now it's time for our feature, People We Should Know. And last week, if you remember, Lucy told us a little bit about Mary Jones. And she was a girl who lived in Wales, for whom the Bible was really important. This week, we're going to learn about someone else, another person we should know. Here goes.
Eric Liddell, 1902 to 1945. Are you a fast runner? God makes some people who can run really fast and some people who can't. Sometimes, like on a sports day at school, it can seem that running fast is the most important thing in the world, when really it isn't. It is much more important to be Jesus' friend and to live for him. Eric Liddell knew this, and he was a very fast runner. He was the fastest runner in the world and won a gold medal at the Olympic Games. He loved running, but he loved his friend Jesus even more. Because Eric was a good runner, people wanted to listen to what he said to them, and so he told them about Jesus. Eric was a famous man, but he went to China, a country a long way away where nobody had even heard of him. He wanted to tell the people there about Jesus too. It was a very dangerous place to be. There was fighting and Eric was even put in prison. It was horrid, but Eric now had more people to tell about Jesus. Eric was sometimes cold and hungry and soon became very ill, but he always knew that Jesus was looking after him. When Eric died, people said how great he was because he could run fast. But Eric knew that it was much greater to be Jesus' friend and to tell people all about him.
Okay, now we're going to have a little discussion or a little challenge for you. You can chat to people in your house or online if you want about what they think. I'm going to put up 6 names of women, and what I want you to do is decide whether or not you think those people, or people with those names, appear in the Gospels, appear in Matthew, in Mark, in Luke, or in John, or perhaps in more than one of them. So there's going to be 6 women's names. Do they appear in the Gospel story? Here we go. Okay, so there were 6 names there. I wonder how many you think are in the Gospel stories. Well, I'll tell you. It is all of them. All 6 of them actually appear in the Gospel stories. Some much more familiar names like Mary and maybe Elizabeth. Others not. And perhaps they only get one mention, but they are there. So, last week we looked at Luke's account of Jesus' death. And in most books about people, that would probably be the end, wouldn't it? It ends with their death. But not here. The story continues. And women, as we'll see as we look at the reading in Luke, play a key part in what goes on. In fact, what they see is really important. So how good are you at seeing? Last week I said how carefully do you read? How good are you reading carefully and noticing what's going on? This week it's what the women see that is important. So, like last week, I'm going to put up a screen. He said last week you had to read the word. This week I want you to say the colour. So as you go across the page, say the colour that you see, don't read the word. Lucy tells me it is much harder this way, so I'm going to give you a little bit longer because you would definitely need more than one go. See how you get on. Say the colour, not the word. Much harder? I think it was. Well, in our reading, we are going to listen out for what the women saw. We're going to read it in 3 little bits, and Imi is going to read it for us this time.
Reading is from Luke chapter 23, starting at verse 44 and going to 49. It was about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon, for the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion, seeing what had happened, praised God and said, "Surely this was the righteous man." When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. But all those who knew him, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance, watching these things.
So you might have guessed by what we've done so far that as we look at this next bit of the story, we're going to focus on the women who are mentioned in the Gospel. Okay, and they're described as women who had followed Jesus from Galilee. So they'd been with Jesus for some time. They were mentioned in that last verse that Imi read for us. The women who were at the cross, and they included at least 2 Marys, because we find that out from a different Gospel, likely Joanna and Salome, and maybe even Susanna. But what did they see that day? Well, what they saw was Jesus die. I thought I'd have some visuals to share with you today. So here's the first one. They saw Jesus die. They stood at a distance, but they saw what happened. They were eyewitnesses.
The second reading is from Luke chapter 23, going from verse 50 to 55. Now there was a man named Joseph, a member of the council, a good and upright man, who had not consented to their decision and action. He came from the Judean town of Arimathea, and he himself was waiting for the kingdom of God. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body. Then he took it down, wrapped it in linen cloth, and placed it in a tomb cut in the rock, one in which no one had been laid. It was preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph and saw the tomb and how his body was laid in it. Then they went home and prepared spices and perfumes. But they rested on the Sabbath day in obedience to the commandment.
We learn a bit more about this man called Joseph in the section Imi's just read. But again, let's focus on the women. They're described in the same way as before. Women who had followed Jesus from Galilee. Now, they followed this man Joseph. As he took Jesus off the cross, he wrapped it in cloths and he put it in a tomb. And the women saw Jesus buried. Let's have another visual. The women saw Jesus buried. They saw how his body was laid in a tomb. They were eyewitnesses. Jesus was buried. So, Jesus was dead and Jesus was buried. And as I said earlier, you might expect that to be the end. Or perhaps there'll be a final scene where the women go to the tomb in the morning and they put spices and perfumes on the body of Jesus. But no. Here's our last reading.
It's from Luke chapter 24, going from verse 1 to 12. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the women took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, he has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again." Then they remembered his words. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the others. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. But they did not believe the women, because their words seemed to them like nonsense. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away wondering to himself what had happened.
Did you notice? This time the women were named. Mary's and Joanna. Salome isn't named, but she is named in Mark's Gospel. And gosh, did they get a surprise on that Sunday morning. In fact, surprises. The first surprise was there was no body in the tomb. They didn't have to try and work out what was missing that morning, like you did earlier on the grass. It was clear what was missing, the body of Jesus. Then Mary and Joanna and others perhaps went in. And no one was hiding in there. The tomb was empty. Jesus' body wasn't there. So they got there, the stone was rolled away, Jesus' body wasn't there. The question is, where? Where was Jesus? Jesus was dead. Jesus was buried. Now, Jesus was gone. And as they're wondering, well, I wonder what they were thinking. What were they wondering? They had another surprise. 2 angels appear beside them. And then the angels speak. But before we see what the angels said, a quick game of odd one out. Okay, this is going to be quite easy because I'm going to show you 4 pictures and you need to work out or guess which one is the odd one out. I'll give the answers as we go along. Perhaps discuss it with people you're watching this with or online. Here we go. First, there's a grapefruit and a potato and a pear and a banana. Which of the 4 is the odd one out? It is, of course, the potato. It is not a fruit. 4 more. An orange. A lemon. A banana. And a grapefruit. Which one is the odd one out? It is, of course, the banana, because the others are citrus. 4 more. A chicken. A chimp. A penguin. And a barley starling. Which is the odd one out? The chimp. It's not a bird. 4 more. The chimp again. A giraffe. An armadillo. And a cat. Which is the odd one out? It is, of course, the cat. Should be obvious why. Right, well you might be thinking, why did we play odd one out? Well, listen carefully to what the angels said to the women. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Did you get that? Why do you look for the living among the dead? Jesus was the odd one out. You see, he was living. That's why he's not there. The rest of the people in the tombs that morning were dead. The angels said Jesus was living. Just in case the women don't get it first time, the angels say the same thing in verse 6. He's not here, he is risen. Then they say it again, verse 7, on the third day, be raised again, which is what Jesus had said. And Luke records all three times, all three things the angels say, just in case his readers, people like us, just in case we don't get it either. Jesus was dead. Jesus was buried. Jesus was gone. Three things the women saw with their own eyes. But then they were told Jesus had risen. He was alive again. He was alive again. And these women then went back to Jesus' other followers, including the 11 disciples. How would they react? Well, how would you have reacted? Why not have a quick think about that? Discuss with someone again, if you can. Imagine you'd been there that day and the women came back and they tell you what has happened and what they've seen and heard. How would you have reacted? Have a quick think. Now, obviously, I don't know what you think. Maybe you would have thought they'd been dreaming, or totally lost the plot, or were just winding you up with a sick joke. We should remember the women themselves were totally surprised by what happened. They went to the tomb that morning with spices and perfumes for a body. Well, they'd wasted their money there, hadn't they? And then we see how the disciples did react to the women's news. They didn't believe them. They thought they were talking nonsense. No way were they expecting to hear that Jesus was alive again. Peter, well, at least he went to check out the tomb, didn't he? To see if there was any truth in what the women were saying. And he found there was, because he found the stone had moved. The tomb was empty. Jesus was gone. And he went away wondering about what had happened. Even though the women weren't expecting any of this, and the disciples thought it was nonsense, they ended up believing Jesus was alive. Carry on reading in Luke and you'll read that they saw Jesus alive. Jesus was dead. Jesus was buried. Jesus was gone. Jesus is alive. Where does that leave us today? Where does that leave us today? Easter celebrates Jesus' death and resurrection. But what do you think? What is your image of Jesus? Is it Jesus is dead? Perhaps you still imagine him on the cross. Or perhaps you just imagine he's still in a tomb somewhere. Or perhaps you think, yeah, the tomb was empty and he's gone, but you're not sure where he is and you just leave it there. Or Jesus is alive and rose from the dead. But does it matter? Does it matter which you think? Well, more than anything, it matters. Because Christianity falls apart if Jesus is still dead. If he didn't rise, the Gospels wouldn't have been written. We wouldn't have been able to read about it. There'd be no Christian church. I certainly wouldn't be doing this video today. But if Jesus rose, then he is who he said he is. He is the Son of God, and his death achieved all he said it would achieve. He paid the price. He took the punishment of sinful people so they could be forgiven and friends with God. And if Jesus rose, his followers will rise from the grave to live with him forever. We live in very uncertain times, don't we? And many, perhaps most people, like to think there is a life after this one. But is there? Can we know? Well, we can, yes, because Jesus shows there is. Death was not the end for him. And death is not the end for his followers. He promised he would rise. He promised his followers would rise and be with him. Wow, does that make Easter worth celebrating? And when everything in this world seems so messed up and uncertain, it gives everyone who trusts in Jesus a certain hope for the future. I hope you share that hope. And if you do, praise God today. I'll just pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for Easter. We thank you that it is a real cause to celebrate. Because not only did Jesus die for us so that we can be forgiven and friends with you again, he rose from the dead so that we can know that if we trust and follow him, we too will one day rise to be with him forever. Thank you for that sure hope. Amen. One more thing, don't forget, there'll be another little short video on our YouTube channel, which is just truth or lie, custard pie. Lots of fun last week, wasn't it? Well, this week, it's Slav who gets to tell you something. Truth or lie, custard pie. Watch the video straight after this one. Bye till next week.